Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I have a picture of Starfleet. Las Vegas had their Starfleet convention thing. It's like they would have the ship, the crew, and all this other stuff. There was this awesome ass exhibit where you're standing in the transporter. Everything goes pitch black. There's a puff of smoke, and the room is completely different. It is an awesome effect. Yeah, it's an awesome effect. This is a really badass effect because it makes you look like you're now on a ship, and it's trying to replicate this thing of what would it be like to be on a transporter, to have yourself dematerialize and rematerialize, because that's what's taking place. It's you're being deconstructed molecularly and then put back together at some other spot. What does this do with questions of the soul? What does this do with questions of, wait a minute, you're killing me. You're killing me. Yes, you're recreating me, but how do I know that the thing you created was actually me? I'm not taking your word for it, fucking scientists. No, how do I know that thing is me? All these questions that had to come up when they did this stuff, when they did the transporter. How do I know you're going to get me back? How do I know you're one thing after the next? How do I know I'm safe? How do I know I'm not going to get some illness later? How do I know? How do I know? You're dematerializing me. What the fuck? Can you imagine the paradigm shift that would need to take place for a person to even use that device? It's amazing. It's amazing. The degree of technology and the precision of that technology in that particular society, where we understand it in this particular way, and because we understand it in this way, yes, this transporter is okay, and I'm going to step into this device, and I'm going to be dematerialized and rematerialized, and God damn it, it's me in every case, and I'm okay with that. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm just saying. That's a really fucking mature society. That's all I'm saying. But again, it's a different context. The people in that society's needs are met. Their needs are met. Some of it is technology, but also some of it is we've evolved. There's been an evolution. Now that evolution, mind you, took place after another third war. You can imagine that the technology that was used in that third war supersedes anything that we had, meaning that civilization was destroyed. They were awaking from the ashes at a certain point. So you have the grown-ups who took over after waking up from the ashes. You had the grown-ups rear their kids in a way where the value system of those kids were different. You had a different society. Those society had different values. The things that they considered virtues were different. They grew up in a different context, a different way. Humanity grew up. Humanity grew up. Yes, it still had more work to do in growing up, meaning even when they go into the stars, there's going to be things they encounter, in which case they're going to be different. And yes, this is a 420, so I should have said that in the beginning. I'm sorry. So they're always going to be in this thing of experiencing. There's never a situation where, okay, we're done. At least not for them. Our understanding of reality is minuscule. It's minuscule. It's not even talked about. Physicists measure and weigh things in our reality, a physical matter reality. And that allows wondrous technology and manipulations of forces to which we encounter. But that's not telling you what the model is. I mean, what this is. It's different than saying these are properties of this thing as opposed to what this thing is. The texture, the way you experience it. What is it? I don't know what it is. My point is, neither will they. Neither will they. Their instruments will never get to the point of doing that. At least, we don't know. Maybe. I mean, you can make an argument that if there are other realities, those other realities could just be in framework of one uber reality. In which case, it's dealing with similar forces. Maybe different properties, but ultimately similar forces. Hell, maybe it's like a radio dial. You have all these channels. You float between one channel or the next. We may find out that the energies that are in these things are for the most part shared across an entire spectrum. In which case, yes, you can break dimensional barriers if you had the technology to do so. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? I'm making this point that they're always going to be in this experience of growing and experiencing. I'm also making this case that humanity in Star Trek was in this thing of growing up. Just like kids grow up, people grow up? Humanity. You can look at humanity as being one very large thing that's sick and that's very ill and it's childish. What do we look like when we grow up? What do we look like? And if you're looking at that particular society and you're saying to yourself, okay, what does it look like when humanity has grown up? What does it look like? What does that world look like? Now, Star Trek gives us this kind of world of a resource-based economy, but it's hard to conceive it if we're being honest. I would make the point that if you're using technology to automate cars and everything else, yes, do it. Do it. Do it all the way. Get it to the point where automation, for the most part, has technology in general doing the overwhelming majority of things, particularly the things that needs to sustain life. And find some other way to deal with making sure everybody is self-actualized or plays a role or part in a particular society. You don't need a vulgar compulsion. My point is, the reason they're able to get rid of poverty and everything else is because they got rid of that vulgar compulsion of you're not going to eat, you're not going to drink, you're not going to have anywhere to stay if you don't do work. I'm saying you need to get rid of that. You can get your work done without doing that. That's my point. You can have a society where there is no poverty. You can do that. Those things are possible. You have enough resources to take care of everybody. But you can't do it in this way where it's explicit of you don't work, you don't eat. Even if we have enough resources, you don't work, you don't eat. That's a vulgar compulsion. I mean, I'm saying this is just a nasty thing to do, particularly if you have the resources to take care of that particular individual. All I'm getting at is, at a certain point, get the society to the point where everything is automated. The more things that are automated, the less labor you need to do, the more people can be free. That's my point. I would imagine in the Star Trek universe, people are doing jobs because they want to do jobs. They're doing positions because they want to do positions. I don't think they have cash, if I'm not mistaken. They're doing something else. But certainly they have something in a society to compel the people to do things. Also, I would wager that at a certain point, the impetus in the society to do things will be different. Because we are, again, talking about a different context in Star Trek. Those people grew up. We haven't. We haven't. We still allow really nasty things. I mean, look at the number of conservatives who are out there who think it's perfectly okay to say, let them starve. They wouldn't say it outright, but ultimately one bill or one policy after the next. Let them starve. Let them have that gun. Let them go and bomb this particular country. Let them do these things that would overtly hurt people. And it's normal. It's mainstream. They aren't ostracized. Nope. They're a normal part of the political process. And making a point that the fact that they exist at all in the political process is a failure of humanity. And is proof that we are children. That's all I'm getting at. If we're playing chess, every move in chess is done by some kind of configuration of the board. There's no concept in chess where each person gets to make the board in whatever configuration they want. Meaning anything that you do is going to have a concession associated with it. You can have whatever world you want. Just know there are going to be concessions associated with that particular world. What other concessions are you willing to make for the world that you want to have? In this particular case, we have a capitalistic society. The world that we have are the concessions that we make for that society. I'm saying move the ball forward. It's never going to be utopia. It's never going to be perfect. There are going to be things, concessions that you make into that particular space that you would have to work out. I'm not trying to say utopia. I'm just saying you can't move the ball forward to a point where you're at the very least not letting people starve. That's my point. That's my point. And that's way off the God damn it, it's way off base. You're a Star Trek officer. You're on a starship. Your context is different. You're grown up. You're grown up. You're a man, but you're a grown up. Or you're a woman, you're a grown up. You go into the outside world and you come across a planet. And holy shit, there's life on that planet. If the prime directive, you can't judge. You can't judge. Now, understand, this is 400 years after the war, so these people, for the most part, are developed. I'm talking about next generation. And again, they're optimum human beings. I look at this woman as my equal. We don't have crime. We don't have poverty. We don't have war. We're done with those things. That's our culture. We're done with those things. You land on the culture. That culture is, for the most part, like Saudi Arabia. Meaning, you have a king, and you notice, holy shit, they're executing people. Wow, that's amazing. Whoa, those women are second-class citizens. That makes no sense to you. Why are those women like that? Why are they murdering people in this way? Why are they executing these people? What is your response or your relation when you interact with that civilization? And do you interact with that civilization at all? Wouldn't that civilization seem monstrous? In one case, I heard of somebody being crucified. Crucified. It's amazing. 2017. My point is, your Starfleet officer landing on a planet, interacting with a country that crucified a guy, that chops off heads, that murders people mercilessly. What is the sane way to interact with this country? Would the same way to be not at all? Would the same way to be not at all? So, why do we, as Americans, act with this country? If you were that ship captain, you would see, okay, they're exporting terrorism to other places. They're murdering their own citizenry. Their country, for the most part, are held in prize by a king and his corrupt family. The point I'm getting at is, what is non-interference? How far does that go? Like, and how far does this evolved sense of interaction with other cultures that have very different norms go? So you deal with these people. You interact with them. You're repulsed by the things that they do. But again, you're a Starfleet officer. You're told that there are different cultures out there. And in dealing with those different cultures, you have to deaden your senses, in a sense, to say, okay, you need to be more tolerant of these people, whatever the race. But they're doing monstrous things. Where does the prime directive begin? And what does it end in recognizing, oh my God, these people are fucking monsters and the things that they're doing? Do you pretend that they are okay? I would argue that the prime directive has to come with some issue of humanism. It has to. And by humanism, not necessarily meant by purely by me. If something is discovered that exceeds us, or is something outside of us, dislike us, it still espoused to personhood, essentially a citizen of the galaxy in that sense. And making the point that just being a being, is conscious and aware of being, for the most part, you have a certain degree of value. It doesn't necessarily matter what you are. But it would have to be some degree of, we recognize that murder and certain traits are just bad. We recognize them as bad. You can have the prime directive all you want, but you still need to recognize that they're crucifying their people. That's fucking horrible. Yes, I'm going to judge that as bad. Yes. Yes, I would take that judgment. I would take that judgment with me, because that judgment is a positive judgment of being able to assess what is different from me than them. I'm saying that even if you went to somewhere else in the galaxy, non-interference doesn't necessarily mean you can't necessarily make a distinction between us and them. And the same way on this planet, you interact with other cultures and you can say, yes, that's fucking horrible. They shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. Whether that's oppression of women in some of these countries, yes, you shouldn't do that. It's bad. I don't give a shit about your religion. That's bad. It's this degree of saying none of this stuff has anything to do with religion or anything else. From a human standpoint, I condemn certain behaviors. If you want to say that those behaviors are under a particular religion, then I'm sorry. Yes, I'm against that. It depends on what it is. That being said, I don't have to interfere just because I disagree with. I would wager that starship captain, yes, he may acknowledge that particular place. He may not acknowledge it at all in the sense of going down there, but if he does, he would think some way about the behavior of them, but he wouldn't necessarily interact with them because he doesn't need to. Prime directive, stay out of it. By the same token, your humanism, your global citizenshipism, whatever you want to call it, recognizes that behaviors that some people take are destructive. They're injurious to the individual. Which, if you're exalting the individual, which I would wager Starfleet pays a hell of a lot of attention to the human being, or that planet pays a lot of attention to the human being. That's the only way you would change your economy in that way. Your economy and everything else would be geared towards humanness. You make a society for people, not profits. I'm making this point that they would take that and export that out into the universe, but being adult enough to understand that, no, I don't have to get involved, but yes, I can make a distinction between me and them based upon the things that they're doing. This is not complete moral relativism. It's, yes, there's some things that are destructive. I deem them bad because they're destroying some level of consciousness into some particular other being. That standard is absolute. I would argue the standard is absolute. You have beings, and I'm going to leave it at this, that have the capacity to perceive the universe that they're in. You're not a rock. You're not a plant. You are none of those things. By chance, a random chance, imagine the amount of chance that it would take for you, out of 6-7 billion people on this planet, and you have you, whatever you are. You didn't ask to be you. You were just you. Biologically, where you came from, all those things made you to be you. And what does that even mean for you to be you? That perception has the ability to go out into space and observe its reality and come back to the planet and build instruments, build devices to observe and understand and manipulate its reality. You didn't end up being a dog or a bear. You ended up being you with the cognitive faculties to be able to do those things. That is fucking magnificent. That is fucking magnificent. And however science tries to bury this thing down into physical reality, it's more wondrous. I'm sorry, it's just more wondrous. And that could be me being captured by this particular idea of the other. Yeah, maybe. Doesn't make it wrong. You have no idea what this is. You have no idea what this is. I'm just making this point that because of how random and because of how unique you are, each particular individual, each particular person, I make this point that you have value because you are unique. Yes, there are other physical bodies like you, but regardless of that thing that makes you you, that is unique. That is specific to you, and that is nowhere else on this planet. Are you telling me that something as rare as the individual consciousness is not of value? Is that what you're telling me? I'm making this point that building a world around that value, that acknowledged value, there's nothing else like this particular person, this arrangement of whatever that made this person this person. We're going to value it. We're going to help that be whatever that can be. And we're going to build our society around it. And that person goes into space. That uniqueness goes into space. And that uniqueness is trying to understand this physical world better. Hell, it's whatever world better. If something is destroying that, regardless of what planet it's on, it's diminishing the value of the universe. So yes, as a person, you can make the argument that yes, I don't give a shit what planet, I don't give a shit what civilization. If you're doing something that's adversely affecting the value of the individual, then you have a problem. We're against you. No, we're not getting involved. But we're against that, and we can recognize we're against that. None of this, prime directive shit of these things are kind of equal that Picard was somewhere times make. No, you can make a distinction of what's right and wrong. Nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with culture, nothing to do with anything else other than I am a human being, I have worth, I am specifically unique in the arrangement of my consciousness. There is nothing like me. There will never be another me. If you destroy that, you've destroyed that level of value that was in the universe, or for the most part, that potential. So yeah, you look at the universe in the exact same way. I don't think that's a negative. I think that's crucial and essential. If you were out in a starship and you were dealing with another civilization, you just need to be grown up enough to know that's their civilization and we're not to be involved. That's the difference. And look, I make the point of fear too. Fear too. That is their civilization, we're not to be involved. But yes, that's fucking horrible. Yes. So, leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and you can always support the work through Patreon. This one went long because I kind of went into the weeds on something else, and I realized I was like, shit, this is not what I was originally talking about. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, guys. Thanks.